Yeah, good morning, Ramesh and Sundy. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. How are you doing?
We're good. I hope I.
Hi, Sundy. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Krishen, sir.
Good morning, Krishen.
Good morning and good evening, everyone. This is Ramesh. Hi, Vikas. How are you?
Hi.
Oh my goodness, I feel underdressed, Vikas.
No. I think I debated. Then I said, like, let me test whether it still fits. I think I haven't had a chance to wear it almost 3 months. So.
I'm sorry, I don't have a telephone booth nearby, but.
Hi, Ramesh. How are you?
Great. How are you? Good to meet you.
Bad, my friend. All good?
All good, sir. Where are you located?
Since all of you are there, I think me and Ramesh actually had a chat yesterday. I think
we are on, by the way, we are on live video. So if you want to chat, I would appreciate it if you do that by text.
okay.
Because
fine.
everyone is
We'll
watching it.
So.
Okay, sorry.
Good to hear your voice, Suresh.
Hi, Ramesh. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Great.
Vikas, you're up.
Good morning, good evening, and good day. Welcome to our webinar on the future of associations. I'm Dr. Vikas Khurana, alumnus of Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. I'm also a graduate of State University of New York and have an MBA from the Wharton Business School at University of Pennsylvania. I am a gastroenterologist and practice medicine. I'm also an entrepreneur working on medical devices. I have been a board member of Wheels and helped implement the Kanya project, manufacturing sanitary napkins. The mission for Wheels is to offer livelihood and sustainability. Where solutions do not exist, we encourage research and development as the IITs and other similar institutions through sponsorship. We work collaboratively with partners like IEEE, ISV, CII, Mission Samriddhi, Sevak Foundation, Spoken Tutorial, and others. Lately, we embarked on an integrated approach for smart village development where entrepreneurship is at the core of making these projects sustainable. A brief introduction to Wheels activities was presented prior to the start of this event and will also run at the conclusion. As a practicing doctor, I find working collaboratively with engineers very important because I believe healthcare can scale only with technology. We are a volunteer organization and depend on the generosity of our many donors who believe that scale can only be achieved by leveraging technology. You can also get additional information at our website, wheelsglobal.org and wheelscharitable.org. This webinar is made possible by a generous grant from Smita and Ashok Siddhanti of Endina Inc., an environmental health and safety consulting company based in Washington, D.C. A quick disclaimer, all views expressed by the speakers in this webinar are their own and do not reflect nor endorse by Wheels Global and Charitable Foundation or its board and its members. Now, some housekeeping messages. All attendees are on mute through the webinar. You may ask questions to the speaker by entering it in the Q&A box. If you need any help, you can chat with one of us by raising your hand or typing your request in the chat box. You may also send us the questions by email to info@wheelsglobal.org. A recording of this event will also be available on our website and on YouTube and Facebook. Questions from the audience will be curated and channeled to the speaker by myself. Today's webinar on the future of association is to explore how professional organizations will continue to serve their constituents and stakeholders in post-COVID era, when group gatherings are curtailed and technology will play an increasingly important role for knowledge sharing, advocacy, training, and member services. For this, we have 4 highly respected and experienced speakers and a moderator who has served in senior leadership roles in various associations and is also president of Wheels. We will hear about ground realities from the trenches, how association leaders are envisioning member services and adding values to all stakeholders. Our moderator, Mr. Suresh Shenoy, is a distinguished alumni of IIT Bombay and the current president of Wheels Global Foundation. He served as president of PanIIT USA from 2005 to 2008. He has also served on the board of IIT Bombay Heritage Foundation, Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, and chaired the American Red Cross chapter in the Capital Region. In addition, he has been involved in many other business forums and various committees. Suresh and his brother Sudhakar were recognized in a resolution by the US Congress for their contribution to the Northern Virginia community in 2009. Please welcome Suresh.
Thank you, Vikas. Thank you very much for that very generous introduction. Our Wheels tagline, technology-enabled philanthropy, says everything about who we are and what we do. We take pride in the fact that we were born from an association that put PanIIT and IIT alumni and India's highly capable human resources in the spotlight through the many PanIIT conferences and publications like PyTech. The internet changed everything. And with COVID, digital platforms have become ubiquitous, as everything from national election conventions to daily classroom studies and even sermons and religious festivals have gone to bits and bytes. The four panelists we have among us are thought leaders with a combined membership of over 700,000 people worldwide. The one word that defines all of us is staying relevant. How we stay relevant to our community, our companies, our industry, and even our family is how we are judged and valued. The reverse is also true. Associations must remain relevant to its members and to its constituents. And when I was reading about our first speaker, it stood out that we shared that view of staying relevant. So I'm very pleased that our first speaker today is Dr. Sk Ramesh, who talks very eloquently about this. And his background is very impressive, as you will see on the screen. I'm not going to read everything, but he is currently serving as a dean and department chair and faculty member of the California State University system. He has been on the IEEE board for decades and is currently a candidate, president-elect candidate for the 2021 IEEE tenure, if you will. He's also on the AAPI board of directors, and Dr. Ramesh is a fellow of IEEE and is recognized for his contributions to entrepreneurship and engineering education. His recognitions include the John Guerra Engineering Educator of the Year. So Ramesh, take it over. Please share your remarks and thoughts. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Suresh. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, on the call today. I'm just going to bring up my slides momentarily, and I hope you can see them right there. Great. It is a great honor indeed and a privilege to be with all of you today. And I thought for inspiration, I would begin with this slide with our late president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, when he was recognized with the Von Karman Award. This was in 2009 at Caltech. What an inspiration. What an inspiration for the conversation we're about to have with all of you today. Let me take poetic license and read a couple of lines to you, and I think you'll recognize instantaneously where this comes from. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was a season of light, it was a season of darkness. It was a spring of hope, it was a winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct the other way. Is it the future of engineering, or is it engineering the future? Issues and opportunities in the post-COVID world. P.S. Charles Dickens, the newest IEEE member, can't wait to advance technology for all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really an honor to share some thoughts with you over the next 10 minutes or so about the role of professional organizations. Since some of you may not be familiar with the IEEE, let me begin by telling you that our mission is to foster technological innovation and excellence for the benefit of humanity. Very much aligned with the mission of Wheels, very much aligned with the work that you do to be essential to the global technical community, to enable and to be universally recognized for making a difference in people's lives and in improving global conditions. A 30-second overview. We are a 420,000 strong membership spread around the world in 160 countries, 46 technical societies and councils, and about a quarter of our members are students. So this is a signpost for the future. If you think about technical breadth, 1,900 annual conferences, over 5 million technical documents, top-cited periodicals. In fact, 23 out of the 25 periodicals in electrical engineering, top periodicals, belong to the IEEE. And there are over 1,300 active standards. If you turn on a light switch, thank an IEEE member for it, because the contributions that we make truly make a difference in the world. But more importantly, to the point of today's conversation, what is our social impact? So IEEE has a tremendous role to play in global public policy, global humanitarian efforts, continuing education and certification, and do not forget the last bullet right there, ethics and technology, which I believe is going to become increasingly important for all professional associations, particularly in the post-COVID world. So our strategic plan speaks very eloquently about why IEEE needs to remain relevant for the future of the world. In other words, not just the future of engineering, but engineering the future, as Charles Dickens, a newest member, might have said. So here's our strategic plan. And I'm not going to read all of those out to you, but I highlighted a few things. In particular, enhancing the public understanding of engineering, being a trusted source of educational service and resources to support lifelong learning, providing opportunities both for our current members and our future members for career and professional development. The last bullet, I think, is particularly relevant because we want to form partnerships. We want to build communities in collaboration with organizations like Wheels to advance technical interest, inform public policy, and expand knowledge for the benefit of humanity. None of this would be possible without the core values that we practice: trust, service to humanity, integrity in action, partnership, growth and nurturing. All of this, I believe, leads to that apex, which is global community building. It is as if the world came to a pause on the 12th of March and said, IEEE and Wheels, we need you folks to talk to each other. I don't know why it took us so long to have this conversation, but I'm glad we're having this conversation on the 21st of August, 2020. So where does IEEE and Wheels fit in on this? I think about our mission, advancing technology for humanity, and I truly believe that IEEE and Wheels are at the confluence of IEEE entrepreneurship and humanitarian activities. I don't have to read these slides to you. I think all of you recognize the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Aligns perfectly with your mission, with your goals: eliminating hunger, providing good health, providing quality education, providing healthcare in rural communities. I think this is very critical, not just in the current scenario, but for the foreseeable future, for the few decades that come ahead. For all of these reasons, I truly believe that our professional associations do not have to think about where we are today, but in fact, where we should be in the future as we go forward. And if that's not enough for inspiration, I want to share this with you from the National Academy of Engineering here in the United States. You can download this from nae.org. What is striking to me is that this was actually prepared about a decade ago. And at that time, we were facing perhaps a shortage in the number of students who are coming into the STEM fields. And the NAE created this publication called Changing the Conversation. What is really, really striking is how they talk about engineering and how they talk about collaboration. I believe doctors and engineers working together to have a direct and positive impact on people's everyday lives. These are the kinds of things. We're counting on engineers. We're counting on their imaginations to help us meet the needs of the 21st century. I have some very distinguished panelists following me who are MDs, but with due respect to all of them, I truly believe engineering is the Renaissance degree of the 21st century, a degree that can bring together, provide a platform for many of us, many professional associations to collaborate and make a difference in people's lives. Very good. So where do we go? Where do we begin to engineer the future? We know that we've taken a stand with lockdowns and working from home, and that just merely slows down the spread of the virus. But we know that in the space of about a week, literally, the whole world as we knew it came to a stop. And yet we are socially connected. We may be socially distant, but this has been the order of the day. We have conferences, we have various meetings, and we continue to work thanks to the technological innovations that are being created by our members all over the world. Testing, tracing, and control are very important. And at the same time, we're seeing large economic impact due to disruptions in the transportation industry, due to disruptions in supply chain when it comes to food, and so forth. Now, how do we get out of this situation? And let me just say, and this is a friend of mine who runs a firm in New Delhi called Idea Farms, one of the greatest thinkers of our times, a schoolmate of mine, Sunil Malhotra, and he says, back is not the way forward. In other words, we need to be cognizant of the adversity that we're facing, but in wading through adversity demonstrates resilience. So the two questions that come to mind are, how do we rebuild and what do we rebuild? And the answers, ladies and gentlemen, are simply, we need to build an innovation-based economy to rebuild what we truly need in order to move forward. So the challenges are many, and you are addressing many of them in Wheels. We are addressing a lot of them through our humanitarian activities, pollution, congestion. As a matter of fact, I live in Los Angeles, and as a result of working from home, we actually see blue skies. There's less congestion out there. Healthcare and quality of life, if not already important, will become particularly important. Access to healthcare, providing digital access for monitoring, for providing the kind of services that people need. Unemployment has always been a concern. Here in the United States, we were looking at a report not too long ago that said there might be 40% unemployment. If you look at 160 million jobs, that is 64 million jobs that could be lost. However, look on the other side of it for opportunities. And the opportunities are, to me, are in terms of sustainability, clean energy, smart cities, smart grid, and all of the technologies that our members are creating, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 5G, machine learning. But the beauty of all of this is that how does this all come together in order to serve humanity? How can we make a difference? So let me give you a couple of ideas here. I think COVID-19 has literally hit the pause button and forced us to introspect on what we truly care about, our core values: respect, trust, openness, transparency. We are thinking about the future. In other words, how can we balance with nature? How do we go forward? Then we are thinking about, let's be thankful for what we have. I'm seeing levels of collaboration that we've never seen before. High performance computer scientists working with doctors, working with epidemiologists around the world to find a cure, to find a vaccine in order to make a difference for humanity. And in all of this, we're very focused on ethics. We're very focused on equity, on inclusion and diversity. And in the words of my favorite poet, and I think you'll recognize who she is right away, lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings. Maya Angelou, ladies and gentlemen. So let me describe two very important programs that I think are in alignment, and we can have a conversation about this. EPICS and IEEE, Engineering Projects and Community Service, seamlessly connects university students, pre-university students, and nonprofits in 4 different sectors: access and abilities, education and environment, human services. And what happens here is that we're producing projects with local impact wherever they are. We have a global mission, advancing technology for humanity, but it's making a difference wherever we are. This is a program that I initiated as vice president to talk about the impact that we're having from a programmatic standpoint. We formed partnerships between IEEE and 12 different universities. Purdue University was part of this, 12 universities in India, to make service learning a part of the curriculum. Right, this is going on in great shape right now, and we're producing a generation of engineers and computer scientists who truly care. This is the global impact of IEEE. Again, over a third of the projects in Asia, many projects in India, but pay attention to the diversity here. Over 36% of the university students involved are women. 42% of pre-university students involved have been women. This is important because we cannot move forward without the diversity, without the strength of inclusion. So IEEE Entrepreneurship, again, this is another community that helps us through entrepreneurial engineering for technological innovation. Lots of different avenues, lots of different communities, all coming together to provide value, to provide leadership. If you look at the community, we have 17,000 people part of this community. Many of them are not even members of IEEE, but they're drawn to IEEE because we're a trusted source of information, standards, publications, conferences around the world. So I'm going to pivot right now and talk to you about my goals if I'm elected as the president of IEEE. So as the president-elect, I've been holding a number of town halls over the last month, talking to people all around the world, like the people you see behind me in this photo. I see 4 challenges and opportunities. Number 1, what's the value of membership? What's the value proposition for industry members, for educators, women in engineering, all of these different communities that we serve? And again, I think in terms of engineering the future, not the future of engineering. Second, how are we adapting our structures? You know, we are a glorious organization. We've come to where we are based on the shoulders, based on the opportunities that people have created, but we need to adapt. We need to be nimble. We need to be agile. We need to change. For us, $500 million 501c3 corporation, publications and conferences are roughly about 80% of our revenue. Both of those businesses have changed, are changing dramatically in the world of open access with virtual conferences. So we're already adapting. How can we do all of this? Last but not the least, relevance. How do we remain relevant in these rapidly changing times in a post-COVID world? Our membership, again, is very diverse. As a matter of fact, more than 50% of our members live outside the United States. And when I talk to them, I hear 4 things from the town halls. Keep us technically current, provide us opportunities to enhance our careers, provide us opportunities to serve the community, and more importantly, provide us industry-focused application workshops, conferences, and journals. I capture all of this with the slogan, Go IEEE, and I'm not going to read this to you, but I want to mention a couple of words. Collaboration is important. Transparency is important. The last but one bullet is where I think the intersection of Wheels and IEEE plays a tremendous part. Empower a diverse worldwide membership to build leading edge technical communities. Ladies and gentlemen, we had something called the BRAIN Initiative, which is now a technical community. MDs and engineers working together, rebooting computing, blockchain, AI, 5G, IoT, machine learning. All of these are made possible due to the collaboration that we have. So my goal as president-elect is to energize and incentivize our members to keep IEEE at the forefront. Very good. Collaboration, again, if you haven't already heard me, is critical to our success. Lots of different examples. Some for virtual conferences have expanded tremendously. Here is a visual that shows you how collaboration comes together. A human pyramid where people actually collaborate and communicate. And one of the things that I've learned is if you want to go fast, it's an African proverb, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? Wheels and IEEE going together is the way to make a difference. So I'm going to close right here by saying, do you want to make a difference in the world? I think I know the answer to this. And my way of doing this to say, I care, to be inclusive, to be collaborative, to be accountable, to be resilient or ethical. We have to do it with a sense of urgency. And I almost want to flip this and say, I raise. Let's be resilient, accountable, collaborative, and ethical. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to participating in the panel. Over to you, Suresh.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. Really appreciate it. What an excellent vision for the world's largest professional organization. Very impressive. Thank you. Clearly you talked about how large and diverse we all are. And the key to success is collaboration. So I'm looking forward to working with you. Our next speaker was recently elected as chairman of the PanIIT Association in India. Again, with a membership of over 200,000 alumni from the IIT system, it's one of the largest professional organizations, probably second to IEEE. I greatly value my friendship with Sri Dhar, Sri Krishen Dhar, as someone who has been passionate about not only about the IITs, but also its charter for giving back to the community and nation. I fondly recall that it was about 15 years ago that we got together and talked about everything from Kashmir to Kanyakumari till 2 o'clock in the morning. So I have wonderful memories of that. Krishen is an alumnus of IIT Delhi. He's a chemical engineer who started his career in ICI and went on to become an entrepreneur in his own right and did extremely well for himself, manufacturing special plastics. His company introduced several new industrial plastic products in the Indian market for the first time. He has also served as the president of the IIT Delhi Alumni Association. So please welcome Krishen Dhar. Krishen, good luck and it's yours. Please try to keep your remarks about 12 minutes in the interest of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suresh, for your kind words and greetings to everybody. Our PanIIT as an organization is very different from IEEE that Dr. Suresh described. We are more into the nation building effort and networking among IIT alumni, and we have that main as our main goals. But you know what has changed for us post-COVID is for example, this seminar, which we are doing on a web platform, is completely a new thing, because all our seminars, and we used to do these conclaves, which had 3,500 people who would attend, were all based on getting people together in one place and then, talking to them. Last year in 2019, we did a big conclave on the IIT Delhi campus on artificial intelligence. What does the future hold for India? That was the theme for it, and we had very distinguished speakers. And it was an extremely high quality seminar in that sense, which is what people told me at the end of it all. And we did a hackathon where we had encouraging students to compete for substantial prizes, because we want to make that as a sort of a preeminent place for students to show their abilities and their their talent and creativity. And we had an extremely interesting hackathon of people. And I remember the last project they did was, they were given a set of X-rays and they had to detect cancer in the thing, and they had to write a program over a 24-hour period to do this. And they did that pretty well. So what we see going ahead is that we have to tighten up our internal processes, our admin, our social media management, which is a bit weak, because things have changed, from the time when I started. We used to communicate by letters with 15 rupee postage stamps, and now it's instantaneous. So everybody has to work really fast because otherwise people lose patience. Their attention is diverted somewhere else. So if you want to be in touch with your membership, with your constituents and your stakeholders, you have to have a constant engagement with them. So for that, you need to be able to have things to talk about, firstly. So for the organization, the objectives of having events perhaps more frequently, perhaps more specialized, more focused. We used to have general themes in the past, but now we are more focused. The last one, for example, was on AI. The hackathon which we last is also for young kids in students and all that who are studying artificial intelligence from the computer science department, and for them to do things together, sitting together in one place, all awake for a couple of days and things like that. So what we see in our organization is to be able to engage with our constituents and our stakeholders has become far more important than it was before. And the modern technology, because doing a conclave where you got people together was very expensive. Expensive in terms of money, time, people have to travel. Now it's very easy. You sit down, you're speaking in the seminar, it's over, you're at home. So things have changed. I mean, it's become much more efficient, much cheaper to do. So you can do a lot more. It was very expensive to put one of these big seminars together, in terms of hiring a place and all the lunch, breakfast, dinner, tea, coffee, and then entertainment and all that. Now we can use our resources far more efficiently to do a lot more than we used to do. Okay, the problems come. We had figured out how to give our sponsors, because we depend on sponsorship for all our activities, as is we. How do we give the sponsors the bang for their buck? I mean, how do we make sure it was done differently? For example, when we had these congregational kind of gatherings, it has now got to change in the digital world where the people are looking at the screen. And, and then we used to have a whole day program. Now we are doing, last time our PanIIT-Alumni Foundation, they did a thing. They did Fridays and Saturdays, 3 hours in the evening. And, I asked him, why didn't you do the whole day? He says, well, people are used to sitting in front of a TV and watching a movie for 2 hours. After 2 hours, it's, they cut off. So I've tailored it to suit their attention span. So things are really changing in this sense. Now for different organizations, I mean, if you have an organization of lawyers, we had an organization of electrical engineers, and Dr. Ramesh spoke very eloquently about, the sheer scale and the scope of what they do. You would have an association of lawyers. They are completely different. Sometimes they function as a trade union even. So every organization will have to, depending on what is their domain in which they operate, have to revise and really start working a lot quicker than we used to or were used to be doing, and have far greater engagement with our constituents. That is, I think, the main lessons that are coming, that we can see what is already happening as a result of the fact that people have to stay at home, and the arranging meetings and congregations is no longer possible. So Suresh, any questions you would like to put? I'll be happy to take. Suresh?
Sorry, I was trying to get the video to start. No, thank you very much, Krishen. Now I'm going to have several questions for you as we go along, but let us listen to the remarks from the other speakers, if you may. And if you are done with your remarks, I would like to thank you for those insights into PanIIT's activities, PARFI, etc. So thank you very much. But I'll have a lot more questions for you because you're not talking about 1 or 2 or 5 or 6 IITs. Now you're talking about 23 IITs. And it looks like, it's like herding cats, if you will, with alumni from 23 different institutions. So in any event, we'll get back to that. But clearly, this horrible pandemic has opened everyone's eyes to the important role that technology will play in healthcare. Prime Minister Modi's speech recently on Independence Day outlined his vision to bring broadband fiber optic access to the internet in every village in 3 years. He also talked about having every citizen in India will have electronic health records. So what an endorsement for technology being the enabler for rural development. And we also see the confluence of technology in healthcare, telehealth, telemedicine, you mentioned artificial intelligence, etc., being aggressively adopted for these new models for healthcare. To introduce our next speaker, I'm going to request our chairman for the event, Dr. Vikas Khurana, to please come back and do the honors. Thank you, Vikas. Vikas?
Unmute.
Thanks, Suresh. So welcome, Dr. Sudhakar Jonnalagadda. So Dr. Sudhakar Jonnalagadda is a 37th President of American Association of Physicians of Indian origin. He's a former assistant professor of medicine at College of Georgia. He has served as the president of Georgia Association and Physician of Indian Heritage. He's the past chair board of trustee of AAPI. And I'll welcome him for his comments. Dr. Jonnalagadda.
Good morning, and to US viewers, and good evening, Indian counterpart friends. And I'm indeed honored to be in the panelist today. And thanks for inviting me. And I'm so delighted to be the 37th president of a great organization, AAPI, American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. Has been established 40 years ago. Can I have my first slide, please? Next. Vikas, can I have my first slide? Thank you.
Yeah.
Next one. Thank you. Yeah. AAPI, American Association of Indian Origin, is the largest ethnic organization in the United States and second largest physician organization after American Medical Association. It represents interest of about 100,000 physicians in the USA, probably more than that now, so we don't have latest data. And 1 in 7 patients in USA taken care by physicians of Indian origin. Also, we are talking about 25,000 medical students, resident Indian heritage, who are currently in the United States, who are a member of AAPI. AAPI supports the AMA governance. RP physicians represents about 10% of physicians in the United States, but serves approximately about 30% of US patient population. Physicians are well connected to the lawmakers, including Congress and senators, and that are invaluable asset influence the legislation, ensuring appropriate focused healthcare reform. And next slide, please. When you break down the specialties, and RP physicians represent about 61% of primary care and 33% medical specialty, about 6% surgical. You all know that RP has about 170 chapters, that including specialty chapters, alumni, We represent the entire country of the United States, and they're all connected very well to the parent AAPI. When you look at the subspecialties, 30% of practicing cardiologists are Indian origin. Particularly, interventional cardiologists are very high from Indian origin in the United States. Next slide, please. AAPI has actually runs in 3 ways. Number one is executive committee run by the president. Next is board of trustees, and third is the charitable foundation. The CEO is the president of the AAPI, and the charitable foundation actually support about 17 free clinics in India. If you look at the Indian map, we are pretty much spread all over the country, and these clinics were sponsored, supported financially by the AAPI. And if you look at the number of patients taken care every year, almost 1 million patients have been taken care each year through these clinics, through AAPI Charitable Foundation. Next slide, please. So what are the initiations AAPI doing? AAPI does several initiations, but we don't do media because we don't, not many people know what AAPI does. And number one is the TB Free India, which was working with the government of India. Traumatic brain injury, particularly in the state of Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, and Gujarat. Adoptive Village Program, and Ayushman Bharat, Eye Foundation of America. AAPI partnered with the Community Pure Water, and AAPI partnered with the Tata Trust Fund, and Global Association Programs in India. CPR, which is very active with American Heart, in conjunction with American Heart Association. Medical education in India, nursing education. And we signed MOU with Apollo for the second opinion in rural India, a Swasth India portal, and SAVE projects, and CM continuous medical education, visiting fellowship programs, and research and collection program. Next slide, please. The clinical observation program, which we started this year during my presidency, I felt is very important for the Indian children coming here, particularly before they start applying for residency. This program will help them to understanding how the US system runs, and also bedside mannerisms, and also interact with the patients, understand the language, a big barrier for children coming from India. And this program really helps a big bridge before they start residencies, which in AAPI offerings this year. And clean drinking water project, and essentially what it is, the sponsor, whoever, has to pay $5,000. And every year, for 2 years, $1,000 for the maintenance of the plant. And after that, it will be taken up by the revenue generated from the local, wherever the village, the plant has been established. And also, AAPI partnered with Tata Trust Fund to fight against cancer, particularly radiation oncology, and also cancer screening. And also, we signed with MOU with Apollo. They want a second opinion in rural India. And CPR, along with AAPI in conjunction with the American Heart Association, we gave several sessions in India to teach them the CPR to the particularly the policemen and the paramedics in India in several parts of the country. And Share a Blanket program, very successful, particularly in the United States. And obesity awareness, AAPI was doing for several years, and educate the awareness of complications because of the obesity, particularly diabetes and hypertension. India is actually is highest instance of diabetes in India, and we need that education. And AAPI was putting a lot of effort to educate the Indian. Whenever we go to the Global Healthcare Summit in India, we do these walkathons, obesity awareness walkathons in every part of the country. Next slide, please. This is an important slide where we need to work. Actually, AAPI can partner with the wheels, and engineers and physicians come together and do some innovation, particularly with technology to evaluate the patients, which is collective needs, electronic medical records, and specialist access, regulatory and policy changes. And in programs in India, particularly collaborative device development will be very important. And I'm going to make an ad hoc committee from AAPI point of view, work with wheels, so we can come up with some innovation, particularly mental health and disability and obesity. I'm looking forward. And next slide, please. what we did for the last 6 months during this pandemic, which is the unprecedented time which we're facing through, AAPI took very strong initiation in the beginning. Actually, before the AMA start, we gave 40 webinars to my members, physicians from Australia, England, and India. And AAPI donated several PPE to the local chapters and hospitals and telehealth. And also some students held up in this country, in the United States, have a problem paying their house rents. And AAPI took the initiation and actually helped them to pay their debt actually for the house rent, all kind of stuff. And we donated money to the Prime Minister Fund for this COVID. And also AAPI donated over $100,000 for the needy people, PPE, food donations, and also nursing homes where, this actually the employees of the nursing homes, and we donated the masks and shields to protect them, to take care of the sick people. And well-being and faith-based sessions have been organized several times because, all these physicians are a lot of stress because, they take care of the sick people, and their frontline physicians are very, very danger because of this infectious disease. And veteran lunches have been organized in VA hospitals in the US, and nurse appreciation, or 10,000 nurses have been treated in different 100 hospitals because of the appreciation through AAPI. And also the many chapters have donated food, particularly in the migrant workers in the US. And because of the lack of jobs, AAPI took the initiative and donated food to the migrant workers in Florida and also Washington, DC area. Next slide, please. We just finished a virtual summit because of this pandemic. AAPI couldn't able to do our annual convention, and we did a virtual, which is very successful. And the Prime Minister Modi ji addressed our members, and Ambassador Taranjit Singh, and the US General Dr. Jerome Adams, and Dr. Susan Bailey, AMA President, and Representative Tulsi Gabbard, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, and Ambassador Amit Kumar from Chicago, and Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Chief Scientist of WHO, also attended this CMA sessions. And AAPI does several things. I'm looking forward, work with Wales and see what will come out. Thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you again.
So thank you, Sudhakar, for those wonderful comments. So for the sake of audience, we are taking questions, and if you would please send your questions through the Q&A box there. We'll try to collate and ask at the end. I just want to point out, as Dr. Sudhakar mentioned, we have discussed with the IEEE and AAPI to form a joint task force to look at the special needs. The same shoe will not fit everyone. So we will have to customize for rural India some of the technology and customize some of the medical aspects to US side, and both are kind of different. So I think we will be getting into a task force to address and get more problems together. So if anybody has suggestions, feel free to email us. Question and answer session is open. So I'll hand it back over to our moderator, Mr. Shenoy. Suresh, back to you.
Thank you very much. That is very, very impressive, and we look forward to that collaboration. Thank you, Sudhakar, for your insights and remarks. Our final speaker is the president of Fan Iit USA, and again with a membership that exceeds 50 or 70,000 today. It's a fairly large alumni association, even by any global standards. Wheels is particularly proud of Fan Iit USA because we are an offspring of this institution from 2005, 2006. And thanks to Sundy, we see new energy and continued commitment to thought leadership and the spirit of giving back. Giving back not only to our country by origin, but also by our country by adoption. So Sundaram Srinivasan, fondly known as Sundy, over to you. By the way, I just want to give you a little bit of a background on Sundy as well. Sundy is an IIT alumnus from Delhi. He graduated with mechanical engineering background in 1984. He also did his MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management, and he currently serves as the Chief Operating Officer at Zentech. He has also worked as a senior advisor to British Petroleum, and he has been a judge for the last 10 years in the world's largest business plan competition at Rice Alliance, which I think is a part of Rice University, and he mentors and advises startup companies. Sundy was first founding president of the IIT-Alumni of Greater Houston. So welcome, Sundy. Over to you.
Thank you, Suresh. Really appreciate it. So the first thing, absolutely, I want to say is thank you to Wheels, for this opportunity, and I really want to commend Wheels for all this wonderful work all of you are doing. There are so many of you. It'll probably take my entire 10 minutes to name all of you, but under the umbrella of Suresh, really, you guys, kudos to all of you. Okay, first thing. The second thing is something from here as I was feeling. So this is something interesting for the audience. Whenever you watch a movie, you sometimes get a clip of what happened behind the scenes. Okay. So I really want to commend Dr. Sudhakar, because during some of the dry runs that we have for these events, he was actually between cases. And I that was really amazing. And I was very touched with his commitment to both his patients as well as to the organization. So I wanted to commend you, Dr. Sudhakar, on that one. Yeah. So I'm known to generally tell it like it is. So that's what I'm going to attempt here. I was thinking a lot about this topic of professional organizations and then trying to link it with COVID and post-COVID and so on. But I thought first you've got to focus on what does this professional organization exist for? And you get that clarity in your head, then you can think of how you can preserve these values that you're offering to your members in a post-COVID era. So that was kind of my train of thinking, right? So there are a lot of people I know who are heads of professional organizations that are listening. So hopefully just some sharing of ideas, right? The organization, any organization, primarily exists for its members. And sometimes organizations tend to forget that in terms of get lost in, process and bylaws, and this is the charter and all this good stuff. If you constantly refocus on the fact that you exist for your members, the tactics of what you do automatically becomes easier. This is just a little thought that I wanted to share. And for the members, it is you. I mean, so you are the ones that really make up the organization. So show up, join an organization, doesn't matter which organization, contribute, and you're going to get back quantum fold in return. Let me give you a story, my own personal story. I founded the Houston chapter of the IIT-Alumni in 2004. In 2013, at one event that we hosted, I met a gentleman by the name of Ramesh Maini, who's the CEO of Zentech. And today I work for Zentech and I work for Ramesh. Notice the beauty of the story. I didn't found this organization and take part in this activity in 2004 with this great strategic intent that 9 years later, this is going to happen, right? So if you do stuff just for the sake of doing it, there is a very interesting universal law called the law of unintended consequences. Wonderful things happen. You get quantum fold return. I guess it's my own personal experience, so I thought I would share that. I had a little bit on dissemination of information, but Sk Ramesh shared a lot of that in terms of what his members wanted. So I'll skip that point. But remember, one of the key things is you want to disseminate information, whether it be technical information, whether it be opportunities, and so on and so forth, right? The other thought I had was you need to connect people, and you need to connect them sincerely. Right? There are sometimes certain clouds created when people tend to be part of an organization for a long time. Give it up. Let the younger generation come in. Open it up for volunteers. Let everybody volunteer. Let everybody participate. Again, the law of unintended consequences, right? Wonderful things happen, and I've seen that happen, for example, at the Houston IIT Association. I've just been president of the PanIIT USA as of January. So I'm hoping to inject some of these thoughts into that organization, right? So some of the organizational comments. This was addressed a lot by all the panelists, and this is, I think, quite important, right? In terms of what are we doing for the membership? So the COVID crisis actually offers an opportunity as opposed to being an issue because of some of the things that were previous speakers brought up, in the sense that you can host events for 6,000, 7,000 people. You can't do that in the brick and mortar world, as Krishen rightly observed, right? The other interesting aspect of this is you completely remove the first class, business class, economy class. What do I mean by that? Every attendee has a front row seat. There is no difference of experience of an event for any individual watching the event. So once these things get clear in your head, you realize that you can really contribute a lot to your membership by hosting phenomenal events. And we've been very successful in doing that this year. We've hosted events on education post-COVID, what it's going to look like, the economy post-COVID, what that's going to look like. And just out of interest, one of the speakers there was Dr. Raghuram Rajan, which is a household name in India and the US. We have another phenomenal event coming up on September 10th, which is finance post-COVID. And we have the CEO of the Bombay Stock Exchange that's going to speak. And we said, let's push the envelope. So we're actually trying a mega event in December 4th, December 5th. I know the numbers are staggering. Some of you may be skeptical, but I'll give them to you anyway. We're hoping to reach 500,000 people. Even at a strike rate of 10%, there's about 50,000 people expected to attend that event. So all of these are free. So, available for all. Very, very easy, iit.org. So avail of these, right? This is for membership, right? The other point I wanted to make was another kind of value that you can bring to your members is in the form of, so let me explain. A lot of them are startups. They're small startup companies, smaller companies, hungry and thirsty for visibility. When you have a platform where you have access to 50,000 people, you create sponsorship opportunities that are relatively cheap, where these companies then can get visibility of their companies to a community where a large percentage of them actually has the buying power, the influencing power to support the company's activities. The interesting aspect of these sponsorships is completely different from the brick and mortar world. In the brick and mortar world, the pitch is more around, I have so many costs, as Krishen rightly observed. I have a hotel, this, that, and the other, so I need to defray costs. In this case, it's truly an opportunity. If it doesn't add value to your company, don't do it. So it's brilliant in terms of the post-COVID world. You're able to create different kinds of opportunities for the membership. Collaboration, and this is key. I mean, all of the speakers highlighted this. Ramesh, you did. Krishen, you did. Dr. Sudhakar, you did as well. So I'd like to borrow from one of the speeches of Modi. In fact, I don't want to take credit for it. And, representing an IIT, you got to have a little bit of mathematics into the equation. So Modi said, this is phenomenal, to explain the power of collaboration very simply, right? You got A really working hard and you get A squared, and you got B working really hard, you get B squared. But if you do A plus B, the whole squared, which is collaboration, you get A squared plus B squared plus 2AB. You get a very interesting 2AB of additional value just by working together. I thought that was brilliantly presented by Modi. He was talking about government and non-government type of partnerships, but I think it's very applicable today here. And one very live example, I did not have the privilege and fortune of meeting Krishen before this event. So during the dry run, we met. And as a result of this event, we are already collaborating together. So thank you, Krishen, for that. So some examples of that, right? So rounding off, I thought I'd just potentially finish off with kind of what I started, of organizations sometimes tending to take themselves too seriously. Another example is a lot of times wonderful things are being done by people. So in my case, let's say the PanIIT USA, you have IIT alumni doing wonderful things. They need not necessarily be being done under the umbrella of the organization. It doesn't matter. They're doing good things. So right now I have a commitment as PanIIT president of the USA. Whether it comes as part of the organization, whether the organization gets credit for me is irrelevant, right? I offer unconditional support if I can make them a little bit more successful. And I'll give you some examples of this, right? There is a group called IIT Mana, which is the IIT Madras group. A group of them actually commit their times every Sunday to sit together, look at resumes of people that have lost jobs and try to get them work. Small, but very significant contribution. Right? There are IIT alumni in India, Krishen, who've started this phenomenal initiative called Jagrati, or this train journey, where they expose people to rural India. You have a complete revamping of education going on in India by IIT alumni. You got the Ashoka University, you have Plaksha University, you have Crest University. So all of these, who cares whether it's under the auspices of a particular organization or not? It's great stuff. So that's the third kind of contribution that an organization can do, is where I was kind of going with that, right? And I wanted to finish with a message from Desh Deshpande. That was actually, I heard it and I wrote it down. It was one of the earlier Wheels events, in fact, right? He said something very simple. If you can influence at least one person's life in a small way, that is huge. Try to do that. So in all humility, I'm going to take the flip side of that coin. By joining up and participating in whichever organization it is of your choice, you might potentially give the opportunity of somebody else to help you in a small but significant way. So with that, I'm done, Suresh.
Thank you very much, Sundy. As always, very thoughtful and very insightful. So it looks like the key words that I picked from each one of you is about being caring, about not just being members of an organization, but also thinking about the society and the community that you live in and serve the community, do things that have social impact, do things that further education and your professional practice. And this is all to come about through collaboration. So my first question is going to be, what does this collaboration look like? Our chairman for the event talked about creating a joint task force, if you will. So my question is, does this collaboration look messy like, is it going to be messy like elephants mating, or is it going to be precision oriented like a heart operation, if you will? What does it look like? How do you see collaboration happening? And what does it really mean? So why don't I start with you, Ramesh, and get your views, and then go around the room and ask each of the panelists to give their view of what collaboration means. So
great. Yeah, thank you, Suresh. And actually, I really appreciate what I heard from Sundy, from Krishen, and Sudhakar. And we are demonstrating collaboration, if you will, through our remarks right here. Because as every one of them very eloquently said, does not matter what organization you belong to. It's about looking at the impact of what we do. And I'll just give you an example for collaboration. YESIS 12, Youth Endeavors for Social Innovation Using Sustainable Technology. About a decade ago, we started with some hackathons where students would get together, come up with products and processes to help people with various kinds of disabilities. I actually started a assistive technology engineering program that brings life scientists and engineers together, right? Working together to make a difference. Today, that has taken root in South Asia, around the world, where youth around the world are actually making a difference. So you serve your members, and at the same time, you look ahead through all of these virtual modalities that we're talking about. We're seeing thousands of people who are not even part of our organization, but something in the organization attracted them to us. Something attracted them to Wheels, to the impact that you make. So what we do, Suresh, I believe, is we facilitate collaborations, we build communities, and then allow those communities to go where they need to go. Because it's not for us to provide structure. Structures will happen organically over time. I think we need to be very nimble, very agile, and then provide the resources for the community to address what they need where they are. So that's my notion of collaboration. And I believe you need to do it with urgency. There's no time to waste. Absolutely no time for complacency.
Krishen, your thoughts on how do you collaborate? You run, people think that Pan IIT might be a nice battleship, but with 23 IITs out there, it's probably more like a fleet of canoes going in different directions. So how do you help to collaborate amongst all these IITs and the societal needs and other associations? You are on mute. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Well, to begin with, our Pan IIT India itself is inherently a collaboration to the extent that all the individual alumni associations of all the IITs are our institutional members. So they're part of this. But how the collaboration works is, Sundy mentioned that already we met on the dry run for this session, and we've already had a meeting where we are talking about collaborating. One of the things I will tell you, because of this post-COVID things, some of the mental geographical boundaries that we had. I'm sitting here in a seminar with people who are in the United States, and I'm sitting in India. I think before this, I would have had to travel to the US to be part of this seminar. It makes a hell of a difference. That for me now to think about, collaborating with Sundy, putting our message to his members and increasing the participation. And as he said, we can now, the platform can go to 50,000 people. Everybody has a front row seat. So what happens is that we are able to take our programs and our activities to much more strongly and more quickly and clearly to the alumni in the US, and they can do the same thing with us. So and then as he mentioned, for example, he met somebody and now he's working there, and he's, how this thing happens. So what happens is that when you put people together, you create linkages among people, you never know what is going to come out of it, because anything can happen. People have ideas, people find interesting things to do. And I found something very interesting in what Sundy said just now, which is that, I thought this would be a great idea, is to really market the alumni who are these young entrepreneurs struggling with startups and all, is to provide our networks to them. And then who knows who will react and who will develop interest? We don't know that. But if we build the networks, and if we take these joint efforts forward, we can do lots of things. We've recently tied up with TIE, the Delhi-based, the Indus entrepreneurs. And they asked us that, can we help them to drive their outreach among IIT alumni? And we were glad to do this, because in exchange, what happens is that when I'm doing something, I can make a request to them to extend my reach among their members. Now, this is a new kind of, we never used to do this kind of thing before. It's new. And I think it will yield many more, it'll just multiply. We are collaborating on organizational levels, and then people will start collaborating at their own levels. So that is what I think should and would happen if we are able to do this well.
Thank you. And your thoughts, Sudhakar, on collaboration, and how would you define that? Vikas has already talked about creating joint workforces and task forces. I would love to hear from you how you see that actually in practice.
Absolutely, it works very well, collaboration. We did in the past, and it did work for AAPI point of view. And with Wheels, we're going to do it this time. And particularly for device development and mental health, and EMR, that kind of stuff, especially we can be able to work with our clinics in India. When the two brains, engineers and doctors, come together, definitely something will come out. So I'm looking forward, and as I mentioned before, I will seriously consider putting ad hoc committee from API point of view and talk to your side and see what will come out. And I'm sure Vikas will play a key role, being a chair of this meeting. And I'm sure looking forward, and it will work. My point.
Thank you, Sundy. Your thoughts on exactly how this could happen in practice?
So you started off and introduced this question, Suresh, by giving me this mental picture of two elephants mating. That's how you started this out, right? So I would probably venture to suggest that you had the wrong choice of animal. If I give you a different picture of two porcupines trying to mate, right? And then I'll mention collaboration. It might appear to be very difficult, but it can be done. So with that, my only thought with all humility is, all these organizations are volunteer organizations, right? Most of the people running these have day jobs, okay? So this is extra time that they are devoting with passion. And therefore, not because it's from the heart, but because of pragmatic reality, this becomes a second priority. So that in humility, there's one part of it. So I guess what I'm suggesting is you got to first get your own organization strong. Charity begins at home. Get that into place first, and then you'll be able to do much more effective collaboration, right? That's not to say don't look for easy, low-hanging fruit. I gave you the example already of working together with Krishen, but for AAPI, right? When I got the news or the information from you guys, and thank you for sharing that you're doing wonderful things in these mountainous regions in India. I shared that with my entire organization, and we found a couple of people who had family in that area that were willing to help out. So don't miss low-hanging fruit, but get your own house in order strongly first, and then look for collaboration. The other idea, and I always like to give credit where it's due, so this is actually Suresh's idea, so I want to give him credit for that. And I'm thinking about it, is potentially consider to have on your board somebody got nothing to do with the organization. So for example, have a doctor on my board, right? Or have an engineer on the AAPI board or whatever. So this is another interesting idea that I thought I'd share. Those are my thoughts, Suresh.
Thank you very much. Those are excellent recommendations, despite where it came from. So, I think it was Professor Robert Langer at MIT, who said that when engineers start to look at the human anatomy, they may come up with slightly different answers than doctors. Okay. In fact, engineers start looking at blood flowing through a vein as a Bernoulli, equation. Doctors look at it from a biological standpoint, and they're both very important. And a good example of where Wheels has collaborated with some doctors is most recently a group of people in India came to Wheels and said, we want to have a frugal design for manufacturing ventilators. And Farid Khan from IEEE was very much a part of that group that we tried to address this. And we finally got together a pulmonologist from Johns Hopkins University to work with another engineer who is a member of PanIIT in the US, who has actually written the handbook on ventilators. And we tried to collaborate and talk about some of the technical issues of mixing oxygen and air in the right proportion to serve the lower respiratory system. Now, joining these dots, connecting the dots of expertise is the value that Wheels added in this whole equation. There was no money involved, nothing. And I always say that, philanthropy is about tan, man, dhan, which loosely translated, it goes into time, talent, and treasure. And time and talent are 2/3 of the equation. So what about sharing expertise? You all have databases of people in different areas of expertise. In this case, we were able to find a pulmonologist. I didn't know how to spell the word till I spoke to someone about respirators. And having this database available, so we know where the dots are. There are several other examples I can give you when it comes to cybersecurity, pumping oil, dousing oil fires, and so on. So do you have any thoughts about how you might create these communities of shared interests based on your database? So why don't we go back to Dr. Ramesh, and then I'll open it to others and invite Dr. Khurana to join and ask questions from the audience after this. So Dr. Ramesh, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Suresh. And, as I was listening to Sundy and I was listening to Krishen, I'm going to start with poetic license here. To err is human, to engineer is divine, to educate is sublime. Okay. So keep that in mind. And we already have such a community, Suresh and gentlemen. And in the IEEE, it's called Collaboratech, just like it sounds, Collaboratech. You do not have to be an IEEE member to belong to Collaboratech. You can just go to Collaboratech today, put in your email, join the community. Here's the beauty of this, because if you join Collaboratech, and let's say you post some of the questions that I'm seeing on chat, very intriguing questions, by the way. How is AAPI going to make a difference? How is IEEE going to make a difference? How is the PanIIT-Alumni going to make a difference? You'll be surprised that serendipity actually happens right there in front of your eyes. Or as Ernest Hemingway might tell you, the sun rises gradually and then suddenly, okay? Because you're going to experience this when you join communities like Collaboratech. So what I see as the power of organizations like IEEE and Wheels and so on is to create that environment, to facilitate those conversations and see where that goes. The other opportunity that I see that is truly on the horizon for all of us is as people are coming together, and everybody alluded to the fact we all have day jobs, right? And we all have to make a livelihood. That's part of your mission in Wheels. So provide opportunities for what we call micro-volunteering. I started as a student member of IEEE back when I was at REC Trichy. Now it's called NIT Trichy. I was one of the founding student members. I had no idea that we had this global mission. I had no idea about the social impact of what we were doing. And gradually I became a volunteer. And then suddenly I find myself running for president of IEEE. I believe every member can do the same thing. But I'm not just thinking about myself. I'm thinking 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. National Geographic came out with an issue. Many of you may have seen it. It said the optimist view of 2070 and the pessimist view of 2070. If you flip the magazine, literally it's printed upside down. You can tell which side of the magazine I picked up, right? For me, in 2070, if you're having this conversation, we will not be talking about organizations. We will be talking about how we're making a difference for humanity. COVID literally hit the pause button, Suresh. It's given us an opportunity to go back with what we truly care about, to become more relevant, not just to us, not just to our members, but to humanity. It's engineering the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. Sudhakar, would you like to comment on that and about your own databases? And you talked about the distribution of number of doctors in the United States, cardiologists, anesthesiologists, and so on. How accessible are these doctors and your database when it comes time to solving specific problems?
No, I think I'll probably take that, Suresh. Sudhakar had to step out. I think I've been holding him. He has procedure lined up on Friday. So it was very difficult for him to kind of keep on extending any further. So as far as the databases are concerned, anytime a particular effort required expertise from physician members with particular interest and specialty, they have all stepped up. So most of the time, I think the networks are very well connected. So let's take the example of COVID. So as the COVID was spreading through, within, I think, first couple of weeks, we had the first seminar where every member was getting educated. It was an open seminar. A lot of doctors from New York were able to kind of educate people in the Midwest and kind of moving beyond of what to expect and how to handle it the best, what mistakes they'd made and how to kind of prevent from them. And I think there was no better example of that transmission and diffusion of knowledge to the membership base than the COVID. So all those aspects are there. And I think initially was more of anesthesiologists, ER physicians, then the pulmonologist took over, cardiologists took over. And I think my thought is as we are evolving in the field of COVID, I think more and more specialties are going to get involved once we start seeing the myriad side effects and the long-term sequelae of this infection. So definitely, I think there's a role there.
Thank you very much, Vikas. While you look at the questions flowing in from the audience, there are a lot of questions there. I want to ask a quick one from Krishen and Sundy, if you may, from the IIT perspective. One of the questions from the audience was, there are a lot of public health facilities in India, and the unfortunate part is there is no standardized way in which technology adoption happens at these places. In fact, they don't have any standards to speak of. Okay? How can the IITs and IIT alumni help in creating some standards around these. I'm sure that IEEE has a very active standards board. They in fact are probably most well known for how they drive standards in engineering. So your thoughts about the association driving such standards where the government has already spent a lot of money and requires and crying out for technology standards and platforms to be adopted. So any thoughts on that, Kishen?
Well, I don't know, but the thing is that you have these community services, and of course in India we criticize them, perhaps rightly so, of being, as you said, not up to the standard that is there. But that is really a combination of many factors, including inadequate capital investment, inadequate training, or an administrative, because this is, applying standards is really an admin problem. You can't, the institution which is running that clinic or whatever it is, itself has to have an internal internal standards of operation. It's not that somebody from outside can come in. Even the people working there will not like that. So I don't know if like an organization like ours can help to put standards in place in these places. One can facilitate this, if they want help, and I'm sure there'll be many organizations who can provide it, some much better than PanIIT. But the point being that you really can't intervene. I mean, that's not collaboration. What you're saying is that we really intervene in these community services to raise their standards. And really, nobody has given us a mandate to do so. And I'm sure organizationally, those organizations also consist of large numbers of people. And they will not appreciate people coming and the public coming and meddling and lecturing them on how they should do this and what they should do and what they should not do. So I don't know how well that would work, but I see the point that certainly these standards are required and the new technologies come in. But that it's a complicated thing, and certainly, I mean, I'm sure we can find a role for ourselves, but primarily that's an administrative role for the people who run those establishments to implement.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because, I was going to say that advocacy is a very, creating standards is a very important part of advocacy, and IEEE has done this very effectively. So Ramesh, I was going to ask you to comment on that.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to take it even beyond IEEE, because one of the hats that I wear is a director of the engineering delegation on ABET. Many of you know about ABET, the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology. So collectively, we have applied and natural science, engineering technology, and computing. And ABET's not individual memberships. There are professional association societies that belong to ABET. So I represent 32 member societies, and they are people like you. They're people from industry, from government, from academia that define what graduates are expected to know in order to serve their profession, in order to serve their community. So I believe those standards can be done with the support of organizations such as IEEE. IEEE is very heavily involved with the largest member society within ABET, right? So we set the program criteria. If you're an electrical engineer, you don't confine yourself just to electrical engineering. Just look around the table here. How many of you studied or are still practicing what you studied in school? You've gone far right and far left where we are. So I believe the standards are some things that professional associations or individual associations can really bring to the table through organizations such as ABET.
Thank you. Yeah, Sundy, your views on that,
So, I mean, to be fair, I think both Krishen and Ramesh have addressed the question on standards. Nothing much more to add. But I did want to make a comment on the earlier topic and the earlier question on the experts, right? The access to experts. So this is something, I'm going to be a little bit middle in the road, both positive and negative, right? But this is something that we are relatively weak at, as you pointed out. This ability to access experts and connect the dots. Again, credit needs to go where credit is due. One of the distinguished alumni on my board, Dr. Prith Banerjee, he brought this up. He said, he's an alumnus of Harvard, and for example, I'm an alumnus of MIT. It's very easy for us to go to our college database and say, you know what, I'm looking for help with somebody who works in Microsoft, for example. There's a database, it comes up, and I'm able to connect to them. I don't necessarily have access to their details because of privacy and all that good stuff, right? But that helps. Or in your case, I'm looking for an expert on ventilators. Right? they come up. We are not there yet, and this is something that is part of our vision to kind of get in place. I just wanted to make a comment on that. On the subject of standards, I think nothing much more to add. I'll be repeating stuff, so I'd rather take a next question from the audience.
Thank you. Vikas, over to you. We are running out of time, so we may have time for one more question, then one or two questions, and then go for concluding remarks, please.
Thanks, Suresh. So I think first question actually relates to you. There was a question posted, how are we handling the concept of multiple languages? And I know how passionate you have been about spoken tutorials, so I'll hand it back to you for 30 seconds to talk about the spoken tutorial and how it's making a language barrier in healthcare.
Thank you. I mean, that's an excellent point. We had raised this in previous webinars as well. One of the main challenges of a diverse country like India is about 300 languages. And, one of the members of our board in India, Dr. Kannan Mudugalaya, started this whole program in spoken tutorials. And to give you an example, and truth be told, we have been participating collaboratively with AAPI for some time. We have worked with them on the Sevak project and the Kanya project and so on and so forth. And there was a project that was done together with what we call the WIN Foundation, which is the Wheels India Nishworth Foundation, on nutrition and child and mother care in India. In the first 1,000 days, there were a series of videos that were made, and then we used the help of spoken tutorials for that to be translated into some 22 local, Indian languages, and then distributed among some 70,000 villages through Ekal Vidyalaya, I think. So there's a classic example of collaboration between a healthcare project, a project based on nutrition done by the Public Health Foundation of India, with another NGO which is related, the Wheels India Nishworth Foundation, and spoken tutorials, and with tremendous social impact with very little cost, if you will. So that's a good example of how that was used. I see Dr. Raj Shah, who is another board member and one of the founding members of AAPI. Welcome, Raj. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you all the panelists for wonderful putting together and particularly emphasizing collaboration by Sundy. And that's really the role Vikas and we want to play. As you said, get somebody who is not of your own profession. And that's what Wills did. Remember, one of the component spoke of Will is H, which is healthcare. And in healthcare, you really need collaboration between technology and healthcare provider. And I have been an early adapter for last 50 years, tried to bring technology, because it is the technology which has made us able to do what we are able to do, which we never did in last 2,000 years. So technology plays a tremendous role, and I'm glad Suresh and members of the Wills and PanIIT to look to doctors to bring them in. I was really yearning for that for many years, because I really technologies need to connect with healthcare people so that we can work together to find a most cost-effective way to connect doctor and patient remotely. COVID actually changed the whole paradigm of last 2,000 years, where we delivered healthcare only in person. Now we are delivering remotely. And look what happened in last 6 months. This was really available for many, many years, but many companies have made it very, very easy. So I'm looking at Sudhakar for AAPI people to devote some charitable time. I'm looking at the technology people to create a platform that will connect doctors and patients for delivering healthcare. So it is my pledge, not necessarily a question, but I look forward how we can bring that together. Thank you, Suresh, for
thank you, Dr. Shah. Yeah, Vikas, our next question.
I would like to point out for the viewers, I think Dr. Shah actually hosted a very an excellent webinar during our webinar series 8 on telemedicine. And there are very good thoughts that the audience will benefit from. So I think just as a last question that was posed, in the interest of time, The question is very interesting and is why can't bioengineers replace all what we are doing? And any thoughts from anyone regarding that?
Sundy, go for it.
So I guess this is an opportunity for me to pay compliments to doctors, okay? So Dr. Sudhakar, who's left, Dr. Vikas, Dr. Raj, you know, if you compare an engineer and a doctor, there's an old joke that goes that the engineer claims that, you know, if there's something goes wrong with an engine, he has the ability to replace all the intricate valves and all this good stuff of the engine. And the doctor very simply says, yeah, try to replace that valve while the engine is running. So really, in all humility, I wanted to salute doctors. So I say that half humorously, but bringing into focus your question about bioengineering, right? So there you really have this confluence of getting, for example, in the areas of either it could be efficiency or it could be in the areas of efficacy and getting things done quickly. I mean, let's take COVID as an example. Yeah? We're talking about vaccines, tests, and so on. Imagine in this confluence of bioengineering, and already there are talks about it being developed in Israel, a quick saliva test, a la the quick pregnancy test, you know, because there's a lot of tension among people. Do I have it? Do I not have it? Imagine being able to do it yourself in like 2 minutes. That's an example of that confluence, Dr. Vikas, and with that, I'll shut up. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you very much.
And
Yeah.
one quick comment I'll also like to make on that. I think as doctors are getting very deep, so think of someone seeing 70 patients a day. I think their problem sets might be very different than what bioengineers might be looking into. And the same is with someone who is getting very deep into optical technology and trying to build something very new. So I think the depth perception for the both sides is really deep once they are fully focused on it. And bioengineers have a very important role to bridge the gap. And I think that's where the confluence and all parts are very important. So we look forward to that. So without any further delay, I'll hand it back to our moderator, Mr. Suresh Shenoy.
Thank you, Vikas. We have very little time left, so I'm going to request each of the panelists to make their concluding remarks. And we have been taking notes, and at the end of this webinar, you will see another slideshow which will encapsulate some of those key takeaways, and that they will also be published on our website, as well as by PITech Magazine, which is a webzine, if you will. So I would love to hear your concluding remarks, Dr. Ramesh. We'll start with you.
Great, thank you very much. And I'll just take about 30 seconds to tell you this. No organization exists without people. And for the IEEE, this is eminently true. Our members are the heart and soul of our organization. And I truly believe, and I'm borrowing from a very famous gentleman here, an IEEE of the members, by the members, and for the members. That's what we need to be thinking about. And the 3 C's, if you will, collaboration, communication, cooperation. We need to do more of that. And when we meet in 2070, I don't know who's going to be there, we will be celebrating. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity. And to all my distinguished fellow panelists for your thoughts. I learned a lot from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Krishen, over to you.
Well, I will pretty much agree with what Dr. Ramesh said. And, you know, this whole idea of collaboration, I think, is and communication particularly, because, you know, we talked about, you know, of engaging with your constituents on a continuous basis and constantly. And that's important. And to be able to work together with other domain experts for a complex thing to do, that sort of collaboration, I think we need to develop by expanding the networks, by information transfer. And there are various ways. I mean, things are coming to mind, but there are some new ideas here. But I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. I'm going to request Dr. Shah. I know you've been listening to the whole thing, and thank you very much for jumping in and you know, helping Dr. Sudhakar Jonnalagadda to attend to his patients, which is a lot more important. Thank you very much for taking. Would you like to just conclude your remarks with what you heard? And yeah.
My remark is, this is phenomenal when we can bring organizations to collaborate. As Sundy gave Modi's equation, it is going to be A² plus 2AB plus B square. Let's make that equation. We all have these dots. We have technology dots, health doctors dot, patients dot, our environment dot. If we can connect together, it would be a phenomenal service to mankind. That's my.
Thank you very much. Very well said. Thank you. Sundy, your remarks, please.
No, just what I said, maybe a reminder to anyone that's listening, one general and maybe a couple specific, right? The general remark would be, doesn't matter which organization it is, doesn't matter what the effort is. Think about joining something, to do something, to just collaborate in community, professional organization, whatever that may be, whatever works for you. That's a general comment. A specific comment from the PanIIT USA, if there's any IIT alumnus out there in the US that still hasn't registered or become part of the organization, I beseech you, I encourage you to join. It's iit.org. And the second specific comment is, we are trying to host this mega event December 4th, December 5th. That will only happen with all people participating. It's iit2020.org. Register, join us. Let's have some fun together. I just wanted to close with that.
Thank you very much, Sundy. I really, truly appreciate each one of you taking time off from your busy schedules and sharing your thoughts and insights into the future of associations. Our world has been disrupted not only by COVID, but it continues to be, disrupted by platforms for social interactions like Google and LinkedIn and Yahoo groups and so on and so forth. And we are also facing a lot of uncertainties going forward. We are entering what they are now calling the gig economy, where there are a lot of people who are going on their own as individual contributors to society. And associations have to adjust and reconcile with the new reality. And how you add value very clearly based on what was discussed today depends on how well you know to collaborate, how well you learn to lead and establish those standards and the thought leadership on where education itself should go, and how we have to create those access points for each of the dots for expertise, dots for requirements, those dots for where the need is most perceived, whether it is at the bottom of the pyramid or in urban areas or rural areas or rural areas. Knowing how to connect those dots are very important, and associations will clearly play a leading role in that. And something despite, or rather in addition to the electronic connectivity, that connectivity of thought and leadership is going to be very important. So thank you very much for taking your time. I'm going to request the chairman, Dr. Khurana, to please make his concluding remarks and thank each one of you for taking your time. Over to you, Vikas.
Thank you, Suresh. So I think I would like everyone to continue sending us their questions, thoughts. I think the task force is going to be a reality. So we will request everyone to think through what are the problems they are facing, which can be solved by connecting the technology with the physician mind. So I think those things will be helpful. So in the interest of time, I'm going to conclude the seminar at this time. I'd like to thank Ramesh, Sudhakar, Krishen, and Sundy for your excellent and insightful remarks. Thanks to Suresh for also acting as the moderator. Thanks also to the entire team of volunteers and collaborators who worked very hard to make this event happen. There are many key takeaways from today's webinar. These takeaways will be displayed along with the introductory video if you missed it prior to the event. A link to today's event and the recording will also be on our website, wheelsglobal.org and wheelscharitable.org, where there is also a donation button, and we look forward to some suggestions also. Finally, thanks to all the attendees, and we hope you will join us for the next webinar in 2 weeks on Friday, September 4th, where our speakers will be Moncho Ferrer of the Vicente Ferrer Foundation, Ms. Rajni Sehgal, Executive Director of Ekal Vidyalay in North America, Mr. Kalyan Chakravarti of PanIIT Reach for India. They will be talking about the challenges for delivering services in rural India. Stay safe and keep well. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
all speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want a debrief now or can we leave? You're mute, Dr. Vikas.
Got it. Got it. So I think let's do the debrief now. So I'm just waiting for Suresh. So I think let it wrap down a little bit.
Okay, I'm just going to be back. Give me 2 minutes. I just come back. Okay.
Yeah. I think everybody can take us. Yeah, there is Suresh. So Suresh, please help us with the plan.
Well, why don't we take a 10-minute break and we will send you a link for the debrief. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hey, Suresh. Suresh, that was a great presentation. Your microphone is off.
Yeah, so we still have about 30 participants listening in. So
Okay.
I think what we are going to do is we are going to send a separate link to all the panelists and we will regroup in about 5 or 6 minutes when this presentation stops.
Oh, we still have presentation? Oh, okay.
It's going on, yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Oh, thank you.